Good morning.
Good morning, Babz. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Criminal Justice Insider. I'm Babz Rawls Ivy.
And I'm Jeff Grant.
And thank you to the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven for supporting us.
In our fourth season.
Oh my God, 4 years?
Yeah. We're in our fourth season. It's been 3 years and 4 months or 5 months.
And good morning to our biggest supporters, Lynn Springer and Andrew Kaplan.
Yeah. We love you guys. And hopefully our guest Scot Esdaile will come on. Let's see. Chloe is texting me right now to try to find him. So let me make sure I just get Scott's phone number.
Well, even if he doesn't come, you and I are never for lost for words of conversation.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, what's new, Babz?
What is new? We've got a new president. Happy New Year. This is our first show of the new year.
It is. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. What did you and Lynn do? I saw you got a big delivery. You got some treats or some snacks. What was that?
My dear college friend, Sharon Goldberg, who moved from Connecticut down to Virginia a year or two ago for a job. She sent us a care package from Katz's Deli in Manhattan. So I have to tell you that it comes like in a freezer box, and you take the packages of pastrami and you put them in boiling water for 7 minutes, and it's like coming right off the steam table. I put a piece of pastrami in my mouth from Katz's. It was the greatest taste I've ever had in my life. It's unbelievable.
Now, someone told me, my girlfriend sent me, she sent me, what is the Jewish bakery, the famous bakery, Zabari? What is it?
Which one? Zaros?
Yes. She sent me a box of black and white, mini black and white.
Ooh.
What's the Jewish treat?
Rugula?
Yeah, sent me rugula and the boob, what is it? The bread, the chocolate
babka,
and a piece of chocolate, and so she sent me cinnamon apple rugula. Man, that was
good for you. Good for you. Yeah, Zaro's bread basket is I don't know if they call themselves the bread basket anymore, but certainly was a staple of Grand Central Station when I used to go in every day. Yeah, I used to be good friends. When my kids were little, my oldest daughter went to nursery school, I think, with one of the Zaro kids. So we were friendly with some Zaros.
Okay.
And, so shout out to Zaros. They got good stuff.
And shout out to Katz's Deli. There's one here in New Haven, right? There's one.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same Katz's. Different Katz's. Okay,
I know, but people still love it there, though.
No, I go all the time.
Because I used to. My girlfriend, Bobby Miller and I, when we were having our monthly meetups, that would be on our rotation. They would be on our rotation. So
I think they had a fire, maybe.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah. You might be right.
I think they did.
You might be right. I love, because they put the pickles and all the stuff on the table, and it'd be so good. So good.
So let's do some updates, and then let's get down to what's going on in the country this week a little bit as it relates to criminal justice, right?
Okay, let's get it in.
Yeah. Anything new going on with you that you want to announce, or?
No, I don't think I have anything new I don't think I do. Now watch, I'll get off and I'll be like, oh man, I should have said that. No. But what about you? Because you always got something cooking.
I always got something new. So number one, we're gonna number them. Number one, my article for Entrepreneur magazine was the number 4th most read article of the year.
Yay!
In Entrepreneur.
Yay!
And that's pretty outrageous because really what it was
Now, this
last
was the
March.
article about people getting these loans and how
Yeah.
not to get into trouble with them.
Exactly. This is,
Okay.
it was, I went to prison for SBA loan fraud. So it's a catchy title, right? And people are scared, you know, nobody, very few people know if they did everything right in applying for these applications, because back in March, April, they were trying to get the loan applications in very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no underwriting or almost no underwriting at all. So people either did the best they could, or some people didn't do very well at all, or some people out and out committed fraud, either in the way they applied for the loans or the way they used the money. And that's reported in the media all over the place. But back when I saw it, I said, wow, I remember when this happened after 9/11. And I got caught up in that. And I committed SBA loan fraud. So I wrote about it kind of as a cautionary tale and to alert people as to the 7 things that they could watch out for, or they should watch out for, in my opinion. And the thing is that I did not expect it to, you know, to be such I knew it was an evocative title, but I didn't know that everybody would relate to it. And so I've been invited on podcasts and written additional articles, and have an article coming out for American Bar Association and
Whoa.
and another podcast I taped yesterday. And so the whole issue of loan fraud and criminal justice and the overlapping is kind of perfect for all of my experience, both lived experience, obviously, and for my professional experience. So I'm available if anybody.
Because you can identify with people feeling desperate.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Because these times call for people to be desperate. If you have a business where you're trying to hold on to stuff, trying to hold it together. I mean, these times create an environment where desperation is setting in fast.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is Scott coming on. How about that? That's good.
We see the sky.
Oh yeah, well we just finished our update, so we have enough time for Scott. Scott, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. We can hear you.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Welcome.
Good, Scott. We're glad you could make it.
Two of my favorite people.
Let me say to you personally, I'm sorry for the passing of your mom.
Yeah.
I really am sorry about that, and you stay in my prayers.
I don't know if you know, but I actually lost my mother and brother in the last 3 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so sorry for all your loss.
Yeah.
But you know what? You're married to an amazing woman.
She's a Delta, right?
Yes.
We sent notes to Carla too. So love to your whole family.
So we know that you're we know that you're in good hands with my soror.
Jeff, do you know about the Deltas?
No, of course. How can you know Babz and not know about the Deltas?
Oh my God, it's a major cult operation.
I'm sorry, what?
I saw Animal House. What, weren't the Deltas in Animal House?
No.
They got their symbol is the elephants, right?
Be careful.
In my house, I'm tripping over elephants everywhere.
Be careful.
I told them I was going to file a complaint with their national president.
Be careful. I know you like your couch, but I know you don't want to be on it all the time.
So Babz, why don't you introduce Scott, and then maybe we can kind of get right into the NAACP
Esdaile
agenda.
Needs no introduction. He is the chair. The executive director of the Connecticut NAACP, right?
I'm the state president.
State president of the NAACP. You sit at the national table as well.
Right.
And
You are
chair,
one of the boxing commissioners here in Connecticut.
I'm the chairman of the boxing commission.
And chairman of the NAACP National Criminal Justice Section. Is that right?
National Criminal Justice Committee. Yep, you're right.
There we go. So,
and that's what brings you here today to talk about. Now, I've been paying attention to you and all the work that you've been doing, and all the inroads that you're making around raising awareness around what is happening in criminal justice, particularly around employment and that kind of stuff. And so I so appreciate every time I see you. I know that is one of the things that you are going to talk about and bring right to the powers that be. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So, Scott, we definitely want to talk with you about NAACP initiatives here in Connecticut and nationally. But it feels like it's a week to be able to give you the floor to talk about the unrest at the Capitol and how people were treated in relation to the, as opposed to the way people were treated in Black Lives Matters movement. And I'm sure you're as appalled as we are.
No, I think that's a very shallow conversation. I think that we have to delve a lot deeper.
Go for it.
And if you look at, because you're not talking about Black Lives Matter, you're talking about terrorism now, right? You're talking about domestic terrorism and people trying to overthrow the government. You're talking about individuals that want to strap up congressmen and kidnap governors. I don't know if you remember the situation in Michigan where they had a whole plot and plan.
And the FBI warned her and told her and saved her because they were really ready to move on her in a very sort of real way.
So there's a difference between Black Lives Matter and people trying to overthrow the government. All right? Yeah. So that, I just want to be clear in reference to the comparisons that we're not comparing them for apples to apples.
No, right? Yeah. Well, what I meant was the response.
Well, let me just dig a little deeper though.
Go ahead.
Now, if you look at the crack epidemic, right? When individuals were selling marijuana, where individuals were selling crack cocaine, which is the lowest level of cocaine, right? And the lowest level of these drugs that we're looking at now, right? Very, very inexpensive.
The lowest level and the cheapest level, right?
And very, very inexpensive. Mm-hmm. Very, very inexpensive, right? We're not talking about a big time drug or anything like that. That's very, very expensive. You had army trucks, you had SWAT, you had helicopters, you had all these different people with these huge sweeps. They were arresting 50 to 100 people at a time, banging in people's homes, destroying people's homes. You don't see any of that going on when these FBI going after these individuals that try to overthrow the government. None of that.
Exactly.
When the Muslims were involved in whatever terrorist thing that they were involved, they had Guatemala and the terrorist waterboarding and doing all this stuff to people and tying them up and putting them on islands and different places of the world where they couldn't see their families. And that's how you're supposed to deal with terrorists, right? They're not dealing with terrorists like that now.
Nope.
So let's delve a look. That's why I said this is not a shallow conversation.
Yeah.
Because the federal government has put a lot of resources into the Patriots Act, and what they were supposed to break these cells down in advance on the domestic land, and they wanted to have access to your cell phones and access to your records, so they can make sure that everyone was safe in America. But now everybody, they could go into the federal government, to the Capitol, and to the speaker's floor, and go into the speaker's office and take over the speaker's office.
I tell you what I find most interesting as they unfold the evidence and the information that is coming out.
They were supposed to have this evidence, Babz.
Well, no, they did have it. Here's the thing: the FBI was listening to the raw intel, so they knew ahead of time what these people were planning. They knew. They heard all the conversations about where to meet up and who was going to show up to do what. They had all that intel, all of it. and did nothing with it. Didn't
So
move
what does
on
that
it.
say? So what does that say?
It
They were involved in
says,
it then.
yeah. And that's coming out. Like that's gonna come out.
You think so, huh?
Well, this is what when I was listening to the FBI folks in their press conference, and and they were saying people are going to be everyday ordinary citizens are going to be shocked and appalled by the level of which these terrorists were planning this
The only
other
thing that I could say is
activity.
this, is that they have set precedent on how they can go in people's neighborhoods, destroy their neighborhoods, and arrest 14, 15, 16-year-olds and ruin families' lives for decades through the mass incarceration era.
Mhm.
I want to see them do the same thing now.
Mhm.
But this is even
So
higher level crime, right?
so what do
So
you do? So what does the NAACP, what is the NAACP's pushback on this? And who else comes to the table to help push back on this kind of activity? Because this clearly is not, I mean, because I mean, listen, we already know the history of how they moved on the Black Panther Party, and the Black Panther Party
oh,
did none of this. So, you know, um, so how do we get people to sort of look
you're
at
saying,
this?
what is the NAACP's plan
Yes.
to
Yeah.
push
Yeah.
back on this? I don't think that question goes to the NAACP. I
Mm-hmm.
think that question goes to with the speaker's the House of the Speaker, to Biden, to the Black
Black Caucus.
Congressional Caucus.
Mhm.
We're a civil rights organization, right? But we're in local communities trying to make things happen locally, right? So we're a non-for-profit organization. We have a voice, like we've always had a voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about governments that are not powerful enough to come after this government, right?
Right. So so our goal should be, I would
This is this is
imagine.
this this is this is generals and people that are in charge of armed forces. This is NSA, National Security, Homeland Security. They all stood down on this. If you want to talk about a conspiracy, right?
Mhm.
This got to be the highest level of conspiracy that America's ever seen. How could
So
all of
what
those agencies stand down at one time?
were you
The
when you first
NAACP.
got wind of this, Scott? Were you surprised at the level and the depth of which the
In the
layers
beginning,
of this thing?
I couldn't fathom the thought of this happening, and I had to revisit all the stuff that we've gone through over the last 40 years to kind of get somewhat of a understanding of the depth of what was going on.
Mhm.
Right? All I could do is look at what's happened to my community over the last 40 years and how they've dealt with us. That's what I've been active. I have to talk to our elders in the 60s and the 50s of what they did to us during those particular times. But they've always ramshacked our communities and came up after our activists and our leaders and killed our leaders that have been fighting for the advancement of our communities. We've never tried to overthrow the government.
That is very true. Even at the height of the Black Panther Party, um, all they wanted to
That was
do
a very small group.
it was a very
It had to
small.
be
It was
about
a well, and my
500 members nationwide. Right.
point is that till this day they are still vilified and
Right.
are still right. They're
You're
still
right.
vilified, and these men are in their 70s now, right? And men
I
and
mean, Warren
women,
Kimbrough and those guys are gone.
yeah, they're gone. But some of these women and men are still around, but
Yeah,
they're in their 70s,
you're
and
right. And
they are
80s.
still 70s and 80s, but they're still vilified. And the Black Panther still is um, talked about as if it was a terrorist organization. Um, and I don't see the same kind of conversation around these Proud
You know what they
Boys and
said last night? You know what they
these
said last
skinhead
night?
people.
I was watching television last night. They said that there's chatter on the internet of them overthrowing the government again. And there's
Yeah.
chatter about them going after the 50 capitals across the nation. They saying chatter. There's chatter.
I mean, it's
Just
it's
listen
absurd.
to the language here. Listen to the language. Chatter.
And I'm a fan of language, and so that's how I can tell that this is a different the way that this is being handled is very different, and the way that these terrorists are treated with kid gloves. I
That's
mean,
right.
they are rounding them up, but they're not
No,
kicking their doors
there was
in.
like 30 to 40,000 people out there,
Mm-hmm.
not including the people that were at home that were involved in this stuff too, right? You're talking about terrorist cells all across the nation now. Why aren't they calling them terrorist cells now?
Mm-hmm. I will say that they've at least began to use the language of domestic terrorists and not just protesters and supporters of this current sitting president.
But back to the original question, you can't compare this to Black Lives Matter. This is very, very high level espionage, high level a conspiracy, and high level terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Scott, I didn't mean to compare the movements. What I meant to compare was the response and the unfairness of how they've and how blatant the racism is in this country.
Yeah. Right.
And I was watching Don Lemon the other night on CNN, and last night he had Cornel West on.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Cornell tells it like it is. He's a professor. He was a professor at my seminary, and I think that the voices out there on mainstream and cable TV talking about the racism are very few, but it's become obvious, and we need people to be able to take the lead in this conversation.
Well, in reference to Cornel West, I thought he took it. I thought he approached it with light gloves. Also, I think he's not really calling this the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I have respect for him, but I think that leaders really need to call this for what it is. I mean, this is the highest level of crime that we've ever. This is treason, and we need to call. People are supposed to be killed for treason, right? Mm-hmm. They're getting charges. We talking about criminal justice. They're getting tried for trespassing, breaking and entering. They're not getting no treason charges. They're not getting terrorist charges. We've seen what they've done to the Muslim community in America. We've seen what they've done to people in the war on crime on drugs, or war on drugs, or whatever. We've seen what they've done. So now, all of a sudden, they're giving people charges with breaking and entering, trespassing, breaking windows.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
they had somebody on a bullhorn showing them and telling them where congressmen offices were in the building to go there and kidnap them.
Yes, with hand ties and rope.
Yeah. and they didn't have any mask on in a pandemic.
Right. They were doing not to mention where all the Molotov cocktails were hidden.
Yeah, they had bombs
baseball bats and bombs and swords, and I was like, so clearly they had some help. Clearly, this was a well orchestrated plot.
Babz, they had a noose.
Support.
They had a noose
on the
front.
Yes.
Who walks down the street with one of those? How do you get to an airport with one of those? You had one of those on the back of your pickup truck?
And somebody had to see you put it up because it was huge. Like, it was huge. like it was like a statue.
It was huge.
So yes,
So
somebody had to
I don't.
set it up. They had to bring it up. Somebody had to see them carry it over there, and they
So
weren't
right now they're
stopped.
saying about 70 people have been arrested out of
About a little more
40,000
than
people.
80. Yeah.
So what about the sweeps that happened during the war on drugs in our communities, Bab? When they went through the jungle, when they went through KSI, when they went through the Ville, when they went through the island, 50 young brothers being arrested at a time over crack
Mm-hmm.
cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Where the feds at now with these big sweeps? I
Oh,
know because I've been around it.
you get no argument from me.
Do I know what I'm talking about?
You do know what you're talking about, as well as I, because I've come from that. I've come
That's
through that.
right.
So I do.
They
And I
came
think
through the housing authority, destroying people's lives all across the state, all across the nation, with poor people. They did a drug bust in a tray one time, meaning KSI, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the Dwight area of New Haven, right?
Mm-hmm.
They arrested 100 kids, right? 100 kids. They had 100,000 cash and 6 guns.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys had 70,000. What kind of drug operation was that? 100 guys with 30 grand. Come on, Jeff, talk to me now. You're a big businessman. Don't get quiet on me now.
It was an unprofitable.
What, they all have $28.77 together?
It was an unprofitable operation.
I'm like, are you guys proud of this? 6 guns?
right.
But Scott, this is one of the reasons we knew we had to have you on today, because the outrage is so profound, and actually, what I want to make sure is that we're giving you time to talk about some of your initiatives and the NAACP
I
initiatives.
apologize. I went way off track.
No, it's all right. But we got another 20 minutes to give you the stage, give you the platform, and I want to make sure that you're talking to us, and so that people who want to get involved or legislators know where you're coming from. So why don't we head into that?
Sure. Which I mean, so much stuff that I'm working on. So you just tell me the piece you want to talk about.
No, go for it.
Highlight us on, because I know you're working on a very serious employment component.
The Million Jobs campaign for the former.
Yes, because that is still a very difficult. That's still a very challenging and difficult problem in our communities. And when people are coming back from being incarcerated and trying to find employment, and employers still reluctant to hire people with previous incarceration records.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have stated that I'm also on the national board of the NAACP, and I'm the chair of the Criminal Justice Committee on the national board. So when you look at crime and individuals in the criminal justice system and individuals striving to get back into society, when you have a felony or a blemish on your record, sometimes you've just been arrested. You haven't even been convicted. But if you have a blemish on your record, it's pretty much like a life sentence, So people hold this one mistake over your head for the rest of your life, right? And it's very, very hard to get employment. So out of the 300 million people in America, and I'm saying approximate numbers, I'm not giving you I'm just rounding the numbers off. So approximately 300 million people in America, 70 million people, which is probably close to 1/3 of America, has some type of blemish or felony or misdemeanor on their record, right? So if you have to fill out an application and say, have I ever been arrested? You don't have to say, have I ever been convicted? But have you ever been arrested, right? You have to put that on. And then once you put that on the application, you got to make sure you don't lie. And that will hold you from getting a meaningful opportunity in America. Not always, but significantly. So one thing that we do know is that, or I should say that I've been observing over the years, they're trying to downsize the criminal justice system. So to give an example, and I'll bring it back home to Connecticut. In 1986, there were 6,000 people incarcerated across the state of Connecticut. Several years ago, when Dan Malloy left, it was up to around 24,000 people incarcerated in the state of Connecticut. He's a former prosecutor. He knew that we needed to downsize those numbers because the majority of the individuals have been arrested for petty crimes, right? It wasn't a big time criminals in jail. It was a lot of individuals that were in jail. They didn't have bond money. They didn't have the right representation, and so on and so on. So he thought that we should downsize those numbers significantly. So I think when he left, he got it down to like 13, 14,000 people. And now Governor Lamont is trying to get it down to 8,000. So 85% of the prison system in the state of Connecticut is Black and brown people. So majority of those individuals, Babz, when they come out, they're going to be coming out to the communities that we represent. So the question is, are there jobs for these individuals? So the NAACP, we have enormous amount of relationships with companies and corporations, and they come to our dinners and want to give $5,000, $2,500, little $500 check, and say that they support the NAACP. But we have this huge situation in our community where we have an influx of individuals coming back to our communities, and we need to know if they support second chance hiring. All right, so let's put the little $500 check to the side. Not to say that we don't appreciate the financial support, but we need to talk about, second chance hiring and meaningful second chance hiring to make sure that we're able to make sure that our communities are safe. And I found out that a million jobs is really just scratching the surface nationwide. And we're talking about that we need about 14,000 or so jobs in the state of Connecticut for individuals that are formerly incarcerated, probably even more, because so many people that are out right now that are suffering and can't find a job, or a meaningful job, I should say. So we decided to set up this program. When I went before the National Board of Directors, they said, well, listen, Scott, why don't you start the pilot in Connecticut? And then if the pilot is successful in Connecticut, then we can talk about doing it across the nation. So when you look at 1 million jobs, let's say California is 12% of America, right? So, and once again, approximately 12% of America. So we would have to get 120,000 jobs in California. If we go to Texas is 10%. So we would try to get about 100,000 jobs there. New York is 8%. So we try to get 80,000 jobs there. In Connecticut, which is 1%, we only have 3 million, approximately 3 million people in Connecticut. So we're 1% of that 300 million, right? So we need to try to get 10,000 jobs in the state of Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So that would be emblematical of what we could do across the country. And it's not a cookie cutter situation. Every state is different, but we had to do an analysis of where the jobs are in the state of Connecticut. When the factories left, Jeff, the number one employers were the hospitals. All right. So the hospitals are the number one employers in urban areas across the state of Connecticut. So Yale New Haven Hospital, I think, has maybe about 30,000 jobs in their system, not just their hospital, but they have a system. Mm-hmm. Hartford Hospital, I think, is a little bigger. Bridgeport is the biggest employer. Bridgeport Hospital is the biggest employer in Bridgeport. Mm-hmm. Waterbury, and on and on and on and on. The second major employers are advanced manufacturing. Mm-hmm. We have about 55,000 jobs available at institutions such as Sikorsky, Pratt & Whitney, Electric Boat, mm-hmm. And other major manufacturing companies across the state of Connecticut. And it's not like the old Eli Whitney, Babz. They're more advanced technology now, right? See, Babz think I don't know her, but I know her very well. That's my homie, Jeff. We came up together. Am I right, Babz?
You said it, baby.
All right. I don't think either of you knew Eli Whitney, but that's okay.
Nah, well, I went to Eli Whitney High School, which is a regional vocational technical school, which now people have a real conversation about reinvigorating vo-tech
That's right.
education.
Exactly. So the bottom line is that we have and once again, this is a hopefully I could come back and we could talk more comprehensive about just this program because hopefully it's going to impact the state and impact the nation tremendously. So
Well,
we signed up.
I'm
I'm sorry.
interested how the pandemic interrupts some of this,
It does. It does.
some of this, because I mean, it must put a huge
But the
wrench
hospitals,
in your plans.
but the hospitals are still strong though.
Mm.
Even during the pandemic, there's still money being as like the Walmarts are still doing well. The CVS's and Walgreens are doing well.
Yeah, they're hiring.
Amazon is doing well.
Yeah.
So there's still companies that are doing good. You know what I mean? So we just have to shift our plans a little and readjust and then find out where the money's being made and what companies are doing well and find out what they need and let's train the individuals accordingly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think Stop and Shop has put on 50,000 people. And
that's right.
And
You're
Nuvance, which is Norwalk Hospital and Danbury Hospital, they just leased 200,000 square feet at the old Union Carbide build, the Summit in Danbury. So there are pockets in the state that are expanding.
Well, so what I find interesting about this is that that these jobs that you're talking about, Scott and Jeff, is that now these are now known as frontline kinds of jobs. Frontline, you know, because of this pandemic, we have a new definition of how to classify these folks. You know, frontline used to just be nurses and health professionals, right? But now we're starting to understand that it means people that work in the grocery stores, people that stock the grocery stores, you know, the people that work in the restaurants, people that, you know, that anybody that has some kind of direct service job has now become frontline workers. And so now you have a pandemic that you have to contend with. You have to sort of think about those kinds of jobs a little differently because this puts people's lives and health in jeopardy, right? When you say frontline. So I'm interested in hearing, you know, Scott, and you have to come back and talk about this. How do you pivot to change this narrative around finding jobs for people when it's clearly frontline kind of stuff?
We have, excuse me for interrupting.
Oh, no, go.
So we have signed MOU agreements with pretty much all the major hospitals across the state of Connecticut. We signed an MOU agreement with Yale New Haven Hospital. We signed an MOU agreement with Hartford Hospital, the Children's Hospital of Hartford, UConn Medical Center. We signed an agreement with Trinity Healthcare, which pretty much oversees all the Catholic hospitals in the state of Connecticut. So the program is going to actually start the last week of February during Black History Month. And we have all of the Connecticut State College and University systems with all of the community colleges are going to be helping us with the training. We have the Department of Corrections, a partnership with them. So right now, what we're going to be doing is setting up these pipelines of training right directly into the hospital. So we got this formula in this program from Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. And they're the #1 institution of employing formerly incarcerated individuals in the nation. So out of the 45,000 individuals, in their network, they've set 10% of the jobs aside for formerly incarcerated individuals in Baltimore, Maryland, Johns Hopkins. You can look it up.
That's beautiful.
And we went down to Baltimore. We sat down with their president and CEO, their head of human resources, and their head of security, and had a conversation with them. And then we brought them up to the state of Connecticut to speak to all of the 27 hospitals in the state of Connecticut to let them know about the program that they have in Baltimore. And what we're now doing is working on bringing these initiatives to all 27 hospitals in the state of Connecticut. So we signed an agreement with CHA, which is the Connecticut Hospital Association. And we're starting here in New Haven. And then we plan to go to Waterbury. Then we go to Hartford. Then we go to Bridgeport. And then we go to New London. So those are the 5 cities that we're targeting. and then we're planning on going to 16 cities throughout the state. And over the next 5 years, with that initiative, with the hospitals, with construction, with transportation, with the soapbox stores, meaning the Walmarts and the Stop and Shops and the Sea Towns and the CVSs and Walgreens, we think that we will be able to meet our numbers, and not 10,000. We'll be close to 10,000 over our 5-year plan.
So talk to me a little bit, because I know we've got like a few minutes left. How can what do these businesses or these corporations need to do to be prepared to have these kinds of conversations? What do you expect from them, and how do you bring them along? How do you cultivate them and squash any fears that they may or may not have?
Well, there's a guy named Colin Cooper that the governor just appointed in charge of advanced manufacturing. You could Google him also. He had a company up in the northeast corridor of Connecticut. It was a company that had contracts with NASA, and it was an aerospace company. And he stated that his number one employees were formerly incarcerated individuals from Ashnatuck Community College up in that part of the state. And now what he's going to be doing is working with companies across the state to let them know how successful it was for him and how they can implement a similar program in their corporations and companies throughout the state of Connecticut. So we have poster childs of individuals that have successful companies that hired formerly incarcerated individuals that, once again, let me say this also, that these advanced manufacturing jobs are $50,000, $60,000 a year jobs starting out. And they move up to, with overtime, $80,000, $90,000 a year. So guys and females making money like that, they don't have to go back to the streets. You know what I mean? They don't have to get, involved in petty crime that they were involved in before. Some people have been involved in major crime, but we're just trying to really work on redemption and changing people's lives and creating economic opportunities where people don't have to make the same mistakes.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Scott, because moving from a vicious cycle to a virtuous cycle and interrupting the intergenerational cycle of mass incarceration is huge. And I've always liked the way that you've thought about it, because it's not the first time you and I have talked about it. Basically, you got to hit your numbers. This is community organizing at its
right.
You got to hit your numbers, and if you get 10,000 jobs in Connecticut, you're the beacon for the movement throughout the whole country. And
if I can get 2,500, I think I'll be the beacon. I don't know anybody. Maybe Jeff. I mean, you've evaluated and assessed what's going on across the nation. I hear some of the great activists that you have on your talk show. You tell me who's doing anything like this across the country. I know the guy that he was the Wolf of Wall Street. I know he's doing something similar.
Yeah, no, Richard Bronson has 70 million jobs. I know that we connected you with him. 70millionjobs.com. And he has a new social network that he set up called Commissary Club. But let's the three of us have a conversation again, because
I think that would be great.
Because a lot of these
I would love to see a success rate, though.
Yeah, well, the thing is, when we were talking a year ago, it was 3% unemployment. And so it was a different conversation than we're having now, when a lot of people are struggling to find jobs.
Right.
So I admire that you're staying in this. I think that the benefits of hiring people who have criminal justice histories are not obvious necessarily to employers, but we know they're there. And we need people like you to be able to ring the bell loudly and let people know that you don't have to be afraid of us, man. We're hardworking people who need a break, and we'll rise to the occasion.
Well, we'd love to have you.
Studies say that individuals that get a meaningful job once they've been formally incarcerated, 90% of them do not go back out.
Yep.
Well, that makes sense. That's not rocket science. That makes sense, right?
Yeah,
We
you're
know.
right.
That makes sense. Even if you wasn't incarcerated, that makes sense.
Hmm.
We'd love for you to come back to talk more about this, because I don't think this is a conversation that we should have once a year, Scott.
Yeah.
You should
And
come back.
I got a bunch of other criminal justice reform things we got to talk about.
You need to come back on every few
Police
months.
Accountability Act we got to talk about.
Yes, you need to come on every couple of months and talk about these things, not once a year.
Yeah. Whenever you invite me, I'll be on.
All right, Jeff, get the invitation
Y'all my
sent.
friend. Y'all are my friend.
You know we have to book Scott weeks and months in advance, so come on.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
You busy. That just means you're busy, which is good. Somebody's
Definitely
got to
take
be
time.
out here.
Definitely take time for you guys.
I appreciate it. Somebody's got to be out there holding it down for the people who are always marginalized and left behind. And I appreciate you doing that. So
thank you.
So Scott Esdaile,
appreciate you guys.
Scott Esdaile, thank you so much for being our guest. We will definitely be in close touch. And Scott, why don't you just tell people how they can reach you?
If you want to reach me on social media or Instagram or Facebook, at Scott X Esdaile. You spell Scott with one T, SCOTX. My last name is ESDAILE. And if you want to call the NAACP office, we're 860-523-9962. Our website is ctnaacp.org, ctnaacp.org.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. This was good. This was a good conversation. And I appreciate the leading off with this terrorist comparison. I think every show ought to lead with that, because that's important. Because if we don't watch the language, it will become comfortable, and these people will walk.
It'll be just
out.
chatter. It'll just be chatter.
It'll be chatter.
But we are going to keep you and everyone in our prayers this week, Scott.
Thank you so much.
This is a week where we're going to need all the help we can get.
Yeah,
so,
I appreciate you guys.
So we're hoping the good Lord's going to shine on us this week, and hopefully there won't be too many problems.
Some real crazy stuff going on.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I remain optimistic. So I do. So thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Babz, another show in the books.
Yes, it's our first show of the new year. Appreciate Scott coming on.
Yeah.
We go way back.
And I heard a rumor, Babz, that you're going to be interviewed on White Collar Week next week. So
finally,
I know you're going to be
finally going to get some Black people on that podcast.
The advancement of colored people. That's the advancement of colored people.
I'm very proud to say that Black people commit white collar crimes too.
We are underrepresented.
So Babz will be taped next week, and it'll be up in a week or two, and we'll put it on all our social media and all. And I've been on your show often enough, so it's wonderful that you're going to be on ours.
Oh, good. Thank you. And thank you to Lynn Springer, Andrew Kaplan, the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. Thank you for the continued support. WNHH.
Hi, this is Babz Rawls Ivy from New Haven, Connecticut, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, streaming live at newhavenindependent.org.
Thank you, Jeff Grant.
Bye, Babz. Love you.
I'll see you in February. All right, my dear.